There is something people do out of love, out of generosity. And even sometimes to show care, they go out and buy what they think someone else might need. They wrap it nicely and present it in joy, never realizing the weight of what they are giving. It looks harmless, even useful, practical, efficient. But there is one category of gifts that I must compel you to stop giving if you treasure your relationships, your peace, and your spiritual atmosphere. And that is the gift of anything sharp. Knives, scissors, letter openers, anything that slices, anything that cuts. It may look luxurious in design. It may be expensive even, engraved with loving thoughts. But let me tell you what, you may really be giving behind the pretty wrapping. To give a sharp object is to spiritually hand over division. You're not just giving metal and handles and sharp edges. You might be giving strife, separation, arguments, and wounds. Yes, wounds, not physical ones necessarily, but emotional wounds. Wounds of misunderstanding, betrayal, and distance. So many people have told me stories, not realizing the pattern until years later. A mother gives her daughter a beautiful set of kitchen knives, and slowly their connection starts to wither. A friend offers a pair of elegant scissors, and soon the closeness they once shared is lost. Parents give their child a fine pocket knife, and the bond they once enjoyed grows cold. I am not saying every sharp gift brings this, but I am telling you there is a spiritual principle behind symbols and meanings, and the sharp object has for centuries represented the cutting of relationships and ties. The spirit world understands symbols, even when we ignore them. We must remember that what we do in the natural often reflects and aligns with unseen realities. The Bible speaks about the power of unity and love, about living in peace and forgiveness. But when we give something that says in the spirit, I now sever, I now divide, I now bring separation, we are speaking quite a different language. Even if we don't say the words openly, the act carries a weight and influence. Words are not always spoken out loud. Sometimes they are spoken in the giving, in the gestures, in the hidden meanings. You may have heard the old tradition that if someone insists on giving a sharp object and the receiver still wants to accept it, many cultures recommend giving a symbolic coin in return so that it becomes a purchase, not a gift. Why? This little gesture is actually a spiritual one. It neutralizes the act. It says, this is no longer a gift of separation, but a transaction of necessity, a different energy, a different clarity. But when it stays a gift, it carries the full meaning. Now you may say, but I had no intention of harming anyone. And of course, your heart may be pure, but intention alone is not always enough. Intention is a powerful thing, but awareness is even more powerful. Because when you become aware, suddenly your actions carry more light, more discernment. God calls us to walk in the light, to be wise as serpents, but gentle as doves. This applies even in the small things. The gifts we give have weight. They carry our spirit, our essence, our love, and sometimes, unfortunately, our ignorance. When we know better, we must do better. I have seen prayers, broken relationships, on the brink of total breakdown, unexplained arguments, all begin to make sense in hindsight, and all connected back to something as simple as an innocent, sharp object, given in love, but carrying consequence. Let that not be your story. Let that not be your experience or the experience of someone you care about. So before you give the next elegant kitchen set or the fancy grooming tool or the decorative blade, stop and ask yourself, am I giving something that builds or am I giving something that breaks? Because there are some things, no matter how stylish or trendy or handy they are, they hold a truth that transcends mere appearance. And when you give with wisdom, you are no longer just giving a gift, you are imparting blessing. Let every gift you give carry the fragrance of peace, not the edge of division. I once watched a young woman walk up to a stage, overwhelmed with emotion, holding something delicately in her hands. It was not a Bible, it was not a photograph, it was a handkerchief. And she said quietly, "This reminds me of my grandmother, and all the days I cried beside her, and suddenly it hit my heart, something so small, so delicate, yet so heavily burdened with sorrow." We overlook the meanings of what we give, not realizing how deep and spiritual some symbols run, and the handkerchief is one of them. To many, it is just a piece of cloth used to wipe away sweat or clean up a spill, but in the spirit, it has long represented something much heavier. It is a symbol of tears of grief, of loss. It is seen in the hands of the weeping, in the pockets of mourners at funerals. It cradles emotion, the kind that aches quietly and lingers long after words have stopped. So when we give a handkerchief as a gift, we must understand what is being spoken through that gesture. You may give it with pure intentions, perhaps as a part of a special hand-sewn kit or with a beautiful embroidery of someone's initials, even with a touch of perfume and a hopeful heart. But there is a reason why many believe gifting a handkerchief is like passing on your sorrows. You are passing on your tears. The receiver may not realize it in that moment, but slowly, subtly, sorrow begins to echo through their days, not caused by you, but passed through you. And through the symbol, you unknowingly hand it to them. All throughout the world, you will find customs that treat the gift of a handkerchief as something to avoid, something that closes, not opens, something that carries endings, not beginnings. In some cultures, there is a quiet understanding that when a handkerchief is given, relationships may become strained. Joy may feel distant and unexpected. Sadness can rise uninvited. And this is not superstition. This is spiritual alignment, because everything we give has energy. Everything carries a message. And in the spiritual realm, what looks small in the natural can be large in the unseen. I think of the mother who gave her daughter a lace handkerchief before her wedding day. She meant it as a token of elegance, a family heirloom, something blue, something special. But right after that day, sadness seemed to enter their relationship. Where there once was closeness, emotional distance took root, not overnight, not in high drama, but like a slow fade. She told me years later. I never connected the two until I remembered what that handkerchief symbolized: generations of mourning, generations of grief. We must realize we are not just bodies. We are spirits wrapped in flesh, and much of what we experience comes not from actions, but from patterns repeated, energies passed down, things we refuse to examine or we chalk up to coincidence. But there is no coincidence in the spirit realm. And when God gives us discernment, we are called to act on it. You see, beloved, when I talk to people about faith and healing and the joy of the Lord, I also remind them that joy is a choice. It is something we welcome, but if we are not careful, we can unintentionally hand someone a spiritual cloak soaked in sadness. And that is what a gifted handkerchief often becomes: a magnet for unspoken pain. Givers do not mean harm, but they forget. Symbols are louder than intentions. The next time you consider giving someone a handkerchief, even a beautiful custom one, stop and remember this. Is this something that cleanses or something that carries? Is this a blessing or is it a container of tears waiting to fall? Let your gifts become declarations of life, of joy, of promise. Choose items that lift, that celebrate, not that which the world ties to parting finality or sorrow. We are called to be creators of atmosphere, not just in our words, but in our actions, in the unseen messages we send and in the energy we bring into a room. A gift is not just a gesture, it is a carrier. It is a seed, it is a statement, and a spiritual imprint held in the hands of another, long after the moment has passed. So give with eyes wide open, with a heart full of light, not wrapped in shadow. Avoid passing sorrow wrapped in silk, no matter how lovely it looks. I remember a time when a dear friend asked me if I thought it was a good idea to give her nephew a brand new designer wallet for his birthday. He had just turned 18 and she wanted him to feel responsible, mature, and ready to face the world. She felt it would be a symbol of provision, of stepping into adulthood, and of her love for him. But the moment she showed it to me, something in my spirit stirred, and I gently asked her the most important question: is it empty? She paused for a moment, then she said, "Of course it is. I wanted him to feel it himself." And I said softly, "Then you are not giving him a blessing. You are handing him an image of lack." You see, many people do not realize that giving an empty wallet, an empty purse, even an empty coin pouch is far more than just an oversight. It speaks a message in the natural, a message in the emotional, and most deeply, a message in the spiritual realm. It says, "I wish you well, but I hand you nothing." It says, "I want you to prosper, but I begin with emptiness." It may not be what we intend, but the Spirit always hears the deeper message. Symbolism is powerful. A wallet is not just a piece of leather. It is a carrier of provision, a place where money rests, where identity is kept, where currencies flow. It represents value, it represents movement, trade, opportunity, and blessing. But when handed to someone with nothing inside, it becomes an image of something that does not move. It becomes still. It becomes a container of lack. And lack, my dear ones, often multiplies when given form. Many cultures understood this long ago. If one had to give a wallet or purse, they would place inside even a single coin or a small bill, anything to say, may this never be empty, may this always be full, may abundance find its way to you again and again. That tiny token may seem small in the eyes of man, but in the eyes of faith, it becomes a prophetic declaration, something to break the cycle of poverty and the pattern of struggle before it ever begins. Now let me speak to the deeper truth, because this is not just about objects. It is about what you carry and what you transfer. We are all vessels of something. Some carry peace, some carry heaviness, some carry wisdom, some carry confusion. When you give a gift, you are imparting yourself. And when you give a container without content, when you give a wallet without worth, you may be unknowingly transferring a spirit of limitation. Some of you listening right now have walked through seasons of financial struggle, not knowing why. Doors would not stay open, not understanding why no matter how hard you worked, you were always one moment away from lack. Could it be, beloved? Just consider that somewhere, someone handed you something meant to bless you, but it was never activated, never filled with life, just an empty shell, and your spirit learned from it without your mind even knowing. You see, faith is not only in sermons. Faith is in actions. Faith is in the choice to give with intention, the choice to never send someone off into their future with anything that resembles emptiness. Because lack is not just physical. It is emotional, it is spiritual, it is generational, and we cannot afford to keep passing it from hand to hand, thinking it is just tradition or just a gesture. What you give matters, but how you give matters even more. If you are going to bless someone, then bless them fully. Think it through, pray it through, speak life over it, and fill it with something, no matter how small, not for value, but for impact, not for money, but for meaning, not for tradition, but for transformation. I have seen young people rise and build empires after someone gave them a wallet with a prayer and a single coin inside. Still in that wallet, years later, that coin sits untouched, but it reminds them that someone believed they would never walk in lack. That is what a gift should do. It should lift. It should comfort. It should prophesy over the future state of a person's life. You are not just giving a thing, you are marking a destiny. So the next time you reach for that purse or that wallet or even a coin pouch, ask yourself, am I giving a container or am I releasing a blessing? Because what you choose to put inside that space, no matter how simple, could be the difference between lifelong misfortune and a legacy of abundance. Let every gift be a prophecy of overflow, not a reflection of lack. There was once a woman who came to me after a service, tears quietly gathering in her eyes. She held in her hands a delicate watch, a gift she had received just months before from someone she loved deeply. She said they had given it to her on her birthday. Told her it represented timeless love and a future full of moments together. But soon after the gift, everything began to fall apart. The relationship grew distant, misunderstandings multiplied, and they eventually walked away without explanation. She asked me with a cracked voice, is it possible that even a beautiful gift can carry the shadow of misfortune? And I looked at her and I said, yes, because some gifts speak a language we do not always understand. You see, when you give someone a clock or a watch, you are not just giving them a tool to tell time. You're giving them a symbol, and time is not a neutral thing. In the spirit, it carries deep meaning. Yes, it marks beginnings, but it also marks endings. And when we gift time, we risk speaking of countdowns, farewells, and the ticking away of togetherness. Most people have no idea that giving a timepiece, even with the best heart, the best motives, the purest intention, can sometimes mark a spiritual shift. There are cultures that warn against gifting clocks because it is believed to bring separation, misfortune, or even death. Not always physical death, but a death of connection, a death of joy, a death of presence. A clock says, keep track. A clock says, the hour is passing. A clock whispers, eventually all things will fade, and even when wrapped in gold or silver or love, it cannot help but carry that message within its silent ticking. There was another man who told me he gave his business partner a fine European watch to celebrate the 10th year of their partnership. Within weeks, tension arose, contracts were questioned, trust began to wear thin, and by the end of that same year, they had dissolved everything. He said to me, I felt like I had congratulated our ending instead of our beginning. I want you to think about it, really think. When you give someone the symbol of time, what are you releasing over them? Are you giving them a moment? Or are you announcing the passing of moments? Are you saying, I honor what we have? Or are you unknowingly marking the moment it begins to drift away? The spirit realm listens closely, and not everything can be measured by logic. There are prophetic moments in life where what we give and how we give it opens or closes spiritual doors. That is why I tell people, be careful with the things you place in someone's hand, not just for how it looks, not just for what it costs, but for the weight it carries in the unseen. And here is a truth you must hear. Some people walk around still carrying the influence of a gift that looked beautiful but began to mark the slow ticking away of something sacred. A marriage, a friendship, a trust, a season of favor, when the watch was tied to the beginning of the countdown and they did not even know it. Even children feel it. A mother gives her son a pocket watch, passed down from generations, and instead of joy he feels a quiet sorrow he cannot explain, because that item has memory, and not every memory is healthy. Not every inheritance is holy. Sometimes we must cleanse what is passed down, and sometimes we must release it entirely. Let me also remind you that God does not exist in time the way we do. He is beyond it, above it, around it. He moves in the eternal. And when we link ourselves too closely with the measurement of time, we risk anchoring our spirit to something that keeps us looking at what is ending rather than trusting Him for what is always beginning. So when you give a gift, give something that celebrates life, not something that quietly ticks away at the minutes of connection. Give what uplifts, what endures, what multiplies, peace and strengthens faith. Let your gifts break fear, not feed it. Let your gifts open doors, not close chapters. And if you have ever received a clock, a watch, a timepiece that brought with it a shadow you could never quite explain, take a moment, even now, and speak life over it. Or if you must let it go, do so with grace and with prayer. But refuse to carry binding symbols that God never told you to hold. Because the rhythm of love is not measured in hours, and the presence of peace does not belong to the ticking of a clock. So give the kind of gift that brings eternity into a moment, not the kind that silently counts it down. Let every gift declare the permanence of love, not the passing of time.